Hey everyone, back with another video, and you're gonna like this one. We've been preparing for the new Abattoir of Zir content, and I just finished my build that I'm going to be using. And to test it out, we ran a player 4 tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon solo, which is 4 times the life that a normal tier 100 would have. And we cleared it in under 5 minutes, full clear every mob we encountered. So it's absolutely cracked. It has insane survivability, crazy damage to the point where you're one-tapping all of these mobs at 4 times life in a Nightmare 100 dungeon, and it melts bosses and everything that it encounters. It's important to talk about how the build functions and operates, because it's going to be important when it comes to Abattoir of Zir that you are able to navigate the build and play it to its full potential. So here you see, when you encounter a pack, you're going to immediately drop your smoke grenade. Now, we have the enhancement on our smoke grenade so that when you're attacking anything that is under the effect of your smoke grenade with direct damage, it's going to reduce the cooldown. So the reason why we've never used this skill before Abattoir of Zir is because everything just dies in one hit. So you're really not going to benefit from the cooldown reduction on the stun grenade because everything will already be dead. You're not going to get the cooldown. For Abattoir of Zir, we know that the life of these mobs is going to be insane. The best thing I could do to replicate it was bring 3 of my buddies in to this Nightmare 100 dungeon, have them stand right in the front so that we could get 4 times the amount of life on these mobs that a normal Nightmare 100 dungeon has. And I mean, just look, they're still all just melting and dying. Hopefully Abattoir of Zir will be more difficult than a tier 400 Nightmare dungeon, whatever you want to call it, since we have 4 players in. But the damage here is still just insane and melting them. If as the mobs scale up and have more life, you are just getting more hits on your stun grenade so that it will be, the cooldown will be completely refreshed by the time you get to the next pack. So in addition to the cooldown reduction from stun grenade, we also have Shared Misery. So Shared Misery is an oldie but a goodie. We're bringing it back for the Abattoir of Zir build. And what that's going to do is, you see when everything gets dazed from both your stun grenade and your twisting blades, the Shared Misery aspect is spreading it to everything in the dungeon, basically. Anything on your screen is going to be dazed. But in addition to that, we run passives that are going to be knocking down the opponent in Trick Attack. So Trick Attack is when you're critically striking a dazed enemy, it has a chance to knock them down. That knockdown also gets spread through Shared Misery. So you'll see that as you're knocking down opponents, there are enemies far off on the screen that are also getting knocked down. So this is stunning everything, it's knocking it all down, and really it doesn't give your opponents much of an ability to even attack you. So unless the life is going to scale to a point where you're not going to be able to do enough damage in the amount of time that it takes for a monster to go unstoppable, this is what you're going to do, because the enemies literally cannot attack you. And we are using, obviously, we're using Tibolts now. We know that that is going to remain in the game. So we have an absolute bugged amount of damage output that's being done right now. And we're going to go over all the gear and skills and stats and all of that after the video is done playing. Remember, it was under 5 minutes, so it will be done shortly. But here's just, I wanted to demonstrate how strong the build is in, again, these tier 100 Nightmare dungeons that have 4 times the amount of life. So you see that the damage is still absolutely insane. So I think from what we know, the Abattoir of Zir fight is going to go up to around level 170 something mobs. So that's going to be really good. this is going to be a really good test for how much life that those could potentially have. Now, if it gets exponentially greater and greater, the benefit is once you are doing the Abattoir of Zir, you're going to get a crazy amount of damage from the new Tears glyph. I have a speculative Paragon board all set up for you so that day one you know exactly where to do your Paragon board and where you're going to put that glyph in, and that's going to help you scale your Abattoir content as you get to the higher levels. So as you can see, the defenses are not an issue because nothing can attack you. So at that point, it's just scaling your damage to the point where you're able to kill an enemy mob before it can go unstoppable and then eventually kill you. And here is a 4 times health HP boss from a tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon. And you can see him just go down. So yes, that was all done solo. It was a full clear in about 5 minutes or less. I did a shrine, Curse Shrine, so it was about 30 seconds longer than it really had to be, but that was the demonstration. So now, how do we do it? Let's get into the gear and let's look at the build. So this is I have 2 variations. I don't have a Doombringer yet. So I have the ideal spec is going to use a Doombringer. This is my build that if I don't find a Doombringer before day 1, this is what I'm running, but I'll go over both variations here in a second. So this is what I'm running currently. This is what I used to do that player for tier 100 dungeon that you just saw. And guys, this is going to use good gear, right? Because this is the hardest content in the game. They told us you're going to need all the best items to achieve these results. And I encourage you to stick as close to the planner and the gear that I have as you can, because every stat is going to be important when it comes to the new content. We're running Shako, Disobedience on our armor. This is a great 4 out of 4 armor. With total armor, damage reduction, damage reduction, damage reduction, perfect disobedience roll. Gloves, we're running attack speed. We have to build crit chance back into the build for a number of reasons, and we'll go over that in a bit. So we have crit chance, lucky hit, twisting blades, and puncture on the gloves. Tybalt's Will in order to get the absolutely bugged damage that we're doing. I was reaching upwards of over 100 million poison ticks. There's a clip of it on my Twitch channel. But yeah, Tybalt's Will with Condemnation. Then we have Shared Misery on the boots. This is how we're spreading all of that CC effect so that nothing can attack you. And we're running movement speed. You want one of your res on your boots, and then you can make up for the rest in your rings. I'll show you in a bit what to do there. And we have movement speed. Yeah, damage reduction while injured. Dodge chance is good. Energy cost reduction would be great here in place of dodge chance. I haven't rolled it yet. And we have corruption on our 2-hander. So previously we had been running accelerating here, but we needed to drop some mods in order to build to be a bit tankier for Abattoir of Zir, namely Doombringer, or what I have in place of Doombringer right now is Umbris, but I'll show you in a sec. So we get rid of accelerating. We already have a huge amount of attack speed thanks to Ravenous in the season and in other areas. So we actually drop that for corruption so we can maximize our damage output, because we know that damage is going to be super important when it comes to the new content. I am running Umbris because I don't have a Doombringer. The Umbris is meant to replicate the damage reduction from the Doombringer effect, but what we don't get is that huge life boost from Doombringer. So I'm really hoping we find one before. But if we do have a Doombringer, I'll show you what that looks like once we're done. Bursting Venoms on the ring. This is to combine with our Pestilent points so that we can spam our Poison Imbuement. X-Falls, this is going to be our AoE damage. You're still going to have big groups of mobs together, and you want to get them all. There's 2 aspects to the dungeon, right? There's the full clear dungeon mob bosses where you're going to clear a lot of junk, just like in a tier 100, and then there's the boss. The X-Falls is going to help with the mobs, right, and getting that AoE damage, because really without it the build is kind of lacking. All right, and then we have Blade Dancers on our one-hander. Again, if we are replacing this with Doombringer, then we're going to move Blade Dancers up, and Condemnation so that we can get our bugged damage with Tybalt's. For our specialization, we have to run combo points. It is required for the Tybalt's bug to function. I'll show you quickly the alternate. So here we go. Here's the alternate Doombringer build. Again, we have, Shako, Disobedience, Pestilent Points, Tybalt's. What we've done is we have Doombringer here, and then we move Blade Dancers up to our ring, and then Bursting Venoms up to our amulet. And this will just give you a little bit bigger. There's really not a good offensive aspect to put on your amulet. Unfortunately, we're out of offensive spots, and we need Bursting Venoms, Pestilent Points, and Blade Dancer. So you could put any of them here. I like Bursting Venoms for just a little bit extra damage when those poison pools drop. They can end up adding up over time, and especially if we are facing mobs that are going to be pretty stationary for a while, we want to be stacking as much damage as possible. So I have Bursting Venoms on the amulet. So let's get into the skill tree. Make my camera as small as possible for this. Let's go. All right, so going up to Puncture, everything's going to have +4 skills because we're running Shako, so don't be confused by that. But we're running Puncture, of course, Fundamental Puncture. This is going to be for our resource generation and an application of Vulnerable and Slow as well. So all that slow that's being applied by Puncture is also getting spread through Shared Misery. Very good synergy there. Twisting Blades up to Improved Twisting Blades. This is for our Daze effect. Daze is going to be really important when we are spreading our CC with Shared Misery, and also proccing things like Trick Attacks. Sturdy for damage reduction. Here we have Shadow Step, Enhanced Shadow Step, and Disciplined Shadow Step. This is going to be for a little bit extra cooldown so that if we do get CC'd, we can escape it. I'm considering Methodical Shadow Step just to get a stun, which would be another CC effect that is getting spread. But I like the ability to be able to get out of CC. There are some instances where, a mob might get a chilling effect off, or, the freeze bombs effect before you can actually daze them or stun them. So this is good to just escape that in the off chance that you do end up getting hit. Here we go. Rapid Gambits into Trick Attacks. This is for that knockdown. 1 second knockdown is fine. You could try to get away with just one here, but I like it at 1.0. 1.5 is maybe, it feels like a little bit overkill, but if you want to take a point out somewhere to get the additional knockdown damage, who knows? We might end up liking that more once we get into the actual content. Dash we are using, despite not putting a skill point in. We don't have to because we have Shako. Here we go, Dark Shroud, because right now I am running the Umbrous aspect. So we're going Dark Shroud into Subverting Dark Shroud for movement speed. And then a Smoke Grenade up to Countering Smoke Grenade. So this is how we're going to be reducing the cooldown on our Smoke Grenade skill, especially when we're fighting mobs with really high life. This is going to continuously decrease the cooldown on Smoke Grenades so that we'll have it up when we get to the next pack. Poison Imbue, max it out, go up to Blended since we're using crit. Debilitating Toxins, Deadly Venom, damage reduction, damage. Precision Imbuement, more crit chance to combine with our Blended Poison Imbue and other things like critically striking a dazed enemy. If we come up here for all of our Lucky Hit greatness, Lucky Hit is proccing a number of things in the build, Bursting Venoms, X-Falls, Doombringer if you have it. So we want to get our Lucky Hit all the way up. Haste for sustain and other utility. And then Close Quarters Combat for that huge damage increase. Speaking of damage, here is what my perspective Paragon board is going to look like. So the Diablo Builds build planner has built in the Tears of Blood glyph, so we can see what that's going to look like once the Abattoir of Zir fight comes up. So here we're going up and around to get as much max life as we can. Max life is going to be hugely important when we're talking about the Abattoir of Zir. We're running Devious coming up, around, and this is going to be our cheap shot board where we're putting Tears of Blood. This is the most damage that you can get as a boost to the Tears of Blood glyph. So we fill in the entire radius here, and this is what we assume is going to be a global multiplicative damage boost. And we fill in the whole range here for our Tears of Blood glyph, and this is just level 21 as an example. But this goes up to, I believe, level 200, where it's going to expand even further. But that's not until level 50 that it even upgrades its range. And we don't know how long it's going to take to even get to 50 or past. So for now, I have it as right when you start out, this is where your Paragon points are going to go. Then we go make sure you grab Cheap Shot. This is going to be extremely important, especially with Shared Misery. You're always going to have 5 crowd-controlled enemies pretty much around you, except for the boss fights. Then we go into Tricks of the Trade, and we grab Turf here. Turf is going to be important for damage reduction, damage to close, all that great stuff. Come up, grab some more damage to close here. We go to Liranas. This is going to be important for our control glyph. So we move control glyph here. We're running 6 Paragon boards for this build. So this is the 4th, and we're running control here. We're grabbing all the great intelligence nodes and the damage boost after dodging, and then a bunch of res. So the res is going to be important for maxing out your res. So don't skip on the res nodes here. Then for our 5th board is going to be our no witness board. Love this board. We're going to keep efficacy here, and then go and make sure you grab all of the life, and then finally we'll end on Eldritch Bounty. We want to make sure we get the legendary node, Eldritch Bounty, and come up, grab Canny, up and around, and finally end. So this is going to be the most damage and defense, basically, was the goal in mind with this build. Basically, what we dropped from the old build was this last board here, which I believe was Bane was the glyph that we dropped. So we're no longer using Bane. That was a one-dimensional glyph that was just giving you damage. You're not gonna have to worry about damage with Tears of Blood, right? This is the damage. So really great. And then you're also getting a boost to your crowd control damage, which is going to be multiplicative with close quarters combat. So we really like the Cheap Shot board for our Tears of Blood glyph. Last but not least, let's just take a look at the Vampiric Powers. We're running Undying. This is going to give us our great life sustain should we take any damage. Ravenous for that huge attack speed boost. Prey on the Weak. This is a great application of Vulnerable. We want everything to be vulnerable because there are a number of abilities that proc based on vulnerable, and it's a nice multiplicative damage boost. Flowing Veins for huge damage over time that will combine with our poison damage, and of course Accursed Touch. This is to apply the Vampiric Curse that will then combine with Prey on the Weak to apply Vulnerable. And then we also get some explosions from it too, which is great. So that's the build. I hope you all like it. I'm really looking forward to running the the Abattoir fight. Just some reminders. You're definitely going to want around 10,000 armor before your disobedience for the fight. You can always run a potion, armor potion, if you are short on armor. You'll be targeting around 1,500 armor or so once your disobedience is all the way up. So just some reminders there, just some things to look out for. I hope you all have a really good luck with this build. Looking forward to running it together, and then who knows, maybe we'll get a Doombringer before the content gets here. So we'll be doing Duriel runs on stream. Come check it out if you want to be a part of it, and maybe you guys can get some of the last items that you were looking for too. So anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Good luck out there. Peace.